Hey, everybody. Welcome to our 2 Cents Deep podcast. My name is Tracy. You can find me on LinkedIn at Tracy S. Lee or on X at Lady Leet. I'm the CEO, co-founder of a company called This.Labs. We're a software consultancy, but we do a lot of stuff in healthcare and so excited to collaborate with my co-host, Seppi.
Thank you, Tracy. Hello, how are you doing? I am so honored to be your co-host in this, and my name is Seppi Browning, and I don't have all of those hashtags and stuff memorized, which is a tickler for me to remember for next time. Tracy, you did that so well. But I'm very much involved and very engaged with our Georgia ecosystem here. We're hoping that as part of this podcast that we actually reach out beyond even the Georgia borders and get to know more of you and more of our peers. Been involved with healthcare and healthcare technology for over 30 years now. And we're just doing this because it's fun. And I found my spirit sister in Tracy and couldn't let go of this opportunity for us to talk through some things that are very timely, right?
Yes.
What's going on in our ecosystem and kind of just learn from each other and share some of that.
Yeah. Well, it's so exciting. Seppi and I sat down a few weeks ago, and this is only our second episode, but there's so many different topics that are important to talk about and cover. And both of us really believe in uplifting the ecosystem generally. So hopefully you all find some of this content useful.
Yeah, and as we put more and more of this out there, if you have any, I didn't even ask you, Tracy, but if anyone has any topics or suggestions for future conversations, then please let us know, right?
Yes, definitely. Definitely. Well,
Um,
starting on the first topic. So this podcast is all about mentorship and the people who helped us get there. Uh, I know that you've probably had some amazing mentors in your life, as have I. So I'll ask you first, Seppi, who has been the biggest impact on your career or life as a mentor?
I was really thinking about this a lot over the weekend and mentorship, and that whole concept comes in so many different ways.
Hmm.
And my first thing that came to mind over the weekend, which was not truly just, it wasn't really career pathway mentoring, but it was support. You're going to laugh at this, but I remember in one of my first jobs, when I was, newly married and pregnant with my first child, um, I will always remember this individual because she gave me the support and the foundation at work to be able to continue working through my pregnancy and post, pregnancy, coming right back to work and being able to be a new mom and being able to try to get my career back on track, and which is so scary in your own mind. And we probably make it bigger than it is. But just having a strong woman, female leader in the industry really support me through that. I will always remember her. Her name is Mary Hanshell. I will always remember her for that because, she set the standard for that, for really being able to support another person and also illustrated it really in our own day to day leadership skills. That is one of the first things that came to mind, which is so basic and fundamental. But I share that to say sometimes what we do for each other, to each other, and what we offer to each other can be so instrumental and basic that could still leave an impression and support to someone else in
Yes.
our industry, or it just in general in life.
It is wild to think. I mean, you're reflecting back on that and sort of a very specific point. It's wild to think that in every single little conversation we have, whether it's a meetup, whether it's your day to day work in life, something that we think is so small or how we behave or interact truly impacts, I mean, lives of people for years to come. I mean, she probably didn't think that you would be mentioning her in this podcast
25
as
years
like,
later.
yeah, as like the thing that had the biggest impact on your career. um, And, I can think of just small little moments as well where, I'm actually shocked. I've brought up Will Bunker before, founder of Match.com. He was one of my first investors for one of my companies. And, even this whole idea of, Tracy, you just don't like making the donuts, right? This idea that I'm an entrepreneur, I like to start things. But then when it gets down to process and this and that, he's like, yeah, but you got to make the donuts. And so, how many times, like once a month, if not more, does that sort of like, play back in my head, right?
Yeah.
Gosh, I
Yeah.
have to think about the person who's had the biggest impact on my career or my life. There have been so many, but I'll even go back to my days when I graduated college and I got a job at Brocade, which is they do storage area networks. So you have to kind of be in that space to understand what that is. But I remember just meeting people and saying, "Oh, you seem important at Brocade, 8,000 person company at the time. Will you meet with me and mentor me?" And there was people who were just willing to, you know, go on walks with me and talk about, the different layers, like layer 1, layer 2, layer 3 of networking. Right.
Yeah.
Like I had no idea, but these sort of there's this one guy, John Hudson, and he was willing to just like get in a room with me after work and like talk to me about the different layers and why they mattered. Or like there's this guy, Alan Tam. He was I don't know, I think he was like a VP of corporate development or something like that, right? And he was willing to like just talk to me about different things. And so that type of stuff, again, you think it's so small, but like that 5 minutes you take for somebody, that 10 minutes really just, gosh, 25 years later you're talking about. And for me, that was, gosh, what was that, like 15 some odd years ago or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Um,
And sometimes these relationships kind of go to the next level because of situation or experience. I've had a couple, like you mentioned, based on their position, their role, their title, their, and you look at it like that's kind of where I want to go, right? That's the path. That's
mhm.
the road I want to travel, and I want to gain knowledge from them. So all of that said, you get to know them, but it might not be a friendship. But along the way, something goes, different in your life, and you call upon them for whatever reason. Sometimes you
Mhm.
just need an ear or someone to, help set you back on the path, right? You had to pivot and you need some guidance on the spot, and they answer,
Mhm.
and there's been a couple of them in my life. I've been so fortunate that you text or you call and you're like, I kind of need you. And they're answering that call, and they're so happy to be answering that call. And those individuals also really sit in my heart and for what they did. And like you said, all of these different experiences and different things that happen for me, to me, is I think why we do what we do. I'm hoping that if I can give back just one or two of these experiences to someone else when they need it, you know, um, I would be very honored to do that.
I love that. I love that. Well, that leads us to our second question, which is, how do you know when it's time to seek out a mentor or actually be one? Sounds like you're at the point where you're being one, but what about seeking them out?
I think I'm always finding myself seeking, but
Mm-hmm.
what I feel like I'm trying to do a better job, and it's a continuous work in progress, is what am I asking of them? What is
Hmm.
it that I want out of that relationship? And I'm learning, and at least I'm hoping that I'm learning to better articulate that to them, because I think everyone wants to help. And everyone wants to, most people don't want to shut that door, but I feel like if I can better set expectations of what I'm trying to do, what I'm trying to learn, what is it that I think that they would bring to the table for me, and just be honest and set it out there. I've been getting better. What I feel is a success in that time spent. We're busy. We're all so busy, and I'm asking them to give me time. And so I want it to be a good, you know, time spent from my own side. And I want it to be that way for them too. And when you connect on what it is you're trying to do, I think it's just a better experience for both sides.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do have a positive experience and you connect because you both are getting what you think you're trying to do, that is the great foundation to continue to build upon as friends, as colleagues, as, after all, we're all human. Doesn't
Yes.
matter at the, whatever their title might be. But you're building a good foundation because it's built on a common understanding or clarity around what you're trying to do. I think that's something I'm learning to do better. And that's
Yeah.
on me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how are they gonna know? They're willing to be there. They're at the table. It's on
Yeah.
me to be able to better explain what I think I was trying to get out of it. And sometimes they're like, well, Seppi, that's not me, right? Or I can't do that. And that's okay. At least we both know that, and we still met, we still networked, we still connected, and it's never a waste of time. But at least we both know if that goal is not something we is achievable for that
Yeah.
specific connection. You know.
Yeah. I love that because I even tell people, for example, I'm sure you get it too, right? Like the million sort of DMs on LinkedIn or on
Sure.
X where it's, hey, can you help me? Or hey, could we have coffee for, do you have time for coffee, this week? And it's
Yeah.
like, well,
Yeah.
look, we don't have, we all don't have time. And so
Yeah.
sometimes, you might catch somebody where it's like, okay, yeah, this is fine. Sure. Why not? I'm happy to do so. But most people are like, well, okay, well, what can I do to help this person immediately? And if you
Yeah.
don't give if you don't give that potential mentor the ability to be able to figure out how to spend their time in the best way, then they might not want to meet with you either, right? Because it's like, well, it's so open ended. But everybody has different seasons of their life, right? I mean, so many women I talk to who are later on in their careers, who are at the executive level, they're ready to give back and willing to give back, and that's the season of their life, right? There's a lot of folks who are sort of like mid-career who are still looking for mentorship and still looking for whatever, so they're not ready to give back as much as maybe some folks later stage. But that's just been my perception. I don't know if you've seen differently.
No, no, you're right. I think um, to be able to do what is truly the definition of mentorship, right? The
Mm-hmm.
true um, purpose.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. It does take time, right? It does take. It's not usually a one meeting or a one
Mm-hmm.
coffee meeting. It's multiple touch points and understandings and conversation and building upon whatever the specific goals are. And both sides have to be, in a state of one receiving it, and the other side have both the time and experience, right, and know how to be able to hopefully provide it.
Yeah.
And often I find myself also in the conversation of it is not a opportunity for a job, right? It's not like a lot of times people want to do mentoring because they are looking for a job. And unfortunately, I don't
They want
think,
to do mentoring because they're looking for a job.
yeah.
So they
And,
don't want to find a mentor and then get a job from that mentor, but it's the other way around.
well, both of that. I think
Okay.
sometimes
Okay.
I've had mentees that they are in a part of their life where they need a job. They're looking for a job.
Of course. Of course.
And they equate mentoring to it's going to help me find a job. And when you're working with a mentor, if you go through some of the questions, one-on-one questions, right, that go through back and forth, it's really not really the foundation to find a job. You're really
you
trying.
mean like mentors don't want to be used just to be able to find a job, or
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
got it.
and I don't mean it in a like a negative connotation of, but it's just you as the mentee will be disappointed, I think, often because it doesn't equate to finding a job quickly.
Yeah.
It might help you validate, your career path. Am I going in the right direction? Am I applying for the right roles? Do I have the foundation to be evaluated or interviewed for the jobs I'm applying for? Those kind of things, yes. But I think being a mentee or being a part of a mentorship program, I think is something you need to do over time. And especially if you are in a job or a role that is where you want to be, still do it. Because I think it will continue to keep you and validate maybe where you are, or continue to do that pathway planning. And because it's, again, building that relationship and those connections over time. So that your mentor or others in your community kind of know more about you and know where you're trying to go, so that when those great opportunities do provide itself, that they do think of you, right? That you're like, oh, remember, Seppi was looking for this, interested in this. Is Seppi aware? I need to ping her, right? So, but that might not happen till 2 years later.
Yeah.
And so I think that's another self expectation comment I'm just trying to make.
Yeah. I like that, because I think generally everybody wants to help, right? Especially when you're in the sort of mentor position. People become mentors because they want to help. And so when it becomes a little bit more shallow, like, oh, somebody's just engaging in a relationship because they want to find a job, it becomes sort of more like it becomes transactional, if you will. And I think generally people don't love transactional relationships. So that's probably what you're talking about there, which
if I'm trying to get the COO of X corporation to be my mentor, that's great. That person probably comes with a lot of background experience and knowledge, but I doubt he's gonna, he or she's gonna be able to hire me next week to be a director of X, right? That's just not connect. And from a mental standpoint, I'm just, it's not a legitimate expectation for that relationship.
Yeah, I love that. The comment that you made prior about this whole idea of, be ready for questions. I think that is great advice. And it's actually something that people should be thinking about, right? But I also think there's something about just, putting yourself out there and trying. So you can be ready with the right questions. You can be not ready with the right questions. And, you might go through a lot of iterations of meeting people and getting different results, right? Your mileage might vary every time you do it. But I think that practice of just talking to people and building relationships and building connections and finding mentors is good, because unless you do it, you're not going to know what that should look like. So the more you do it, the better off you're going to be.
Yeah. I'm going to do a shameless little plug. So with my scholarship foundation, Bright Hour Foundation, we don't have a lot of funds or money right now, but we're happy and proud to be giving some scholarships out. But what we got, in addition to some of the financial component of it, is we're actually doing some panel interviews. Because that is another way that one can be able to spotlight themselves, have their elevator pitch, be able to have conversations, successful conversations to articulate whatever it is about themselves with whoever they're talking to. All of these, again, are just foundational things that if you don't practice, you lose that skill. Doesn't matter where you are in your, career or in your journey. They always say interview skills, right? It's something, if you don't do it, you lose it. That's another thing, being able to practice and have experience talking to someone. And mentorship, or that whole relationship, is just a conversation, right?
Yeah.
It's nothing more, but you have to be, like you said, prepared and comfortable to be vulnerable, to be honest, to be open, and have that conversation as a professional. And again, the more you're able to be upfront, honest about what it is you're trying to achieve, I think you as the individual will have a better experience and know if that match is really the match that you need at that point in your life. And not that the other person has done anything wrong, but it might not be what you need at that point in your journey.
Yeah, I love that. And I think all of the things that you're saying just take that self-exploration. I remember a point in time very recently where I said, you know what? Maybe I do need some mentors or having some conversations. So I got two of my, friends that I know who are women leaders in the space. And I said, maybe I need, their help or something. And so I went and I just, we had an hour call and I was telling them about, the problems I was having or the problems I perceived I was having. And, they said, well, it doesn't sound like you need this. It sounds like you need this. And I said, oh, maybe you're right. And so that really helped me though, understand that like, maybe, I didn't know exactly what I needed and they saw something different. So we didn't formalize some sort of relationship because it wasn't useful. But also at the same time, it helped me because I felt like I went onto that call not knowing what I needed. I fleshed out those ideas with them. I came very unclear, just like you said, this idea of being prepared. I came like, just to have an open conversation, right? Like there was no script, there was no sort of like specific ask or anything like that. But through that process, it helped me figure out what I actually needed. And I think that's really important for folks who are seeking mentors to understand as well. Like it doesn't have to be perfect. It can be a little bit messy. And then, maybe then the next, then maybe the next time it's, it's better.
Yeah. I have a question about that.
Yeah.
So those individuals that you went to, they already had, you already had a pre-existing relationship and friendship, right?
Yes.
So you had some foundation already set and you felt comfortable, right? To be a little bit vulnerable, unorganized, open to saying, hey, I don't know. I just want to talk, right?
Yes. Yes.
And I think that's exactly the relationships that we all want to build. But that takes consistency and time. And just like you and me, right? As we just recently, a couple months ago met and starting to create our relationship. And, it's having that foundation so that you can come to whenever and say, XYZ, I don't know. Right. And it's just like any relationship, no different that might be work related or tag related or Georgia Hills related, whatever. We all have to invest a little bit into whatever we're doing. Right. And not because you're hoping that you're going to be able to do something in the future, but the more you invest and you're just genuine about it, I think at the end, it's just more beneficial for everyone involved.
Yeah. I feel like people are human and they want to just generally hang out with people who are also human, I suppose. And I think, there's just, and a lot of times that becomes a mentor-mentee relationship, which is awesome. Well, we're almost at the end, and I guess we should also talk about the mentor side of things. And so on the mentor side of things, what is advice you have for being a mentor?
I think as a mentor, we also have the responsibility to go do some research and come prepared as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe you need to let the mentee drive a little bit. They need to be able to drive what they want to get out of that conversation, out of that relationship, and
Mm-hmm.
bring their objectives. But if they are not there yet, I think as mentors, we need to also guide them to get to that point, to be able to share what it is that they're needing and ask the right questions. So keep prompting with questions to help them get to that point and be patient.
Mm-hmm.
I think it might take some time. And also, if you as the mentor have limited time or feel like this is not the right time for you to be able to give a lot of that investment of time, it goes back to time, then be honest. I think going into it and um, ghosting that person or cutting it short or being impatient, I think will be a negative experience for everyone involved. So I think make sure you have that time to be able to invest, and in your mind, be prepared that it's going to take time. This is not, or talking to someone one time and meeting someone, meet and greet. That's not doing mentorship. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're trying to be a meet and greet, hello, how are you? Okay, then make sure that's clear. But
Mm-hmm.
if you're truly going to do mentoring, then I think patience and being prepared to ask the questions to lead the mentee down a pathway where they can help self-develop, become more self-aware of what they are needing if they're not there yet is part of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely have had mentor situations where the human mind, right, always focuses on, like, a lot of times can focus on the negative. And I remember one situation where I had a mentor and I really needed help. I was beginning, I really needed help. I was terrified of, I was being asked to keynote at these conferences, and it was
Mm-hmm.
so, like, oh my God, like, and for me, I'm like, wow, am I saying this right? Like, I don't know. And, I was very sort of, worried about that type of things. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember my mentor at the time, when I was asking for all that help, he was just kind of like, well, you shouldn't be on stage. You shouldn't be keynoting. Like, I should have been asked to keynote.
Whoops.
I was like, oh my
Okay.
God. Yeah, but it was at that time when I realized, like, oh, I really outgrew this mentor, right? And, I mean, it's still, for many years past that, it was a little bit traumatizing, right? To hear
Wow.
that and see that. But I think that's okay too, right? Like, you don't have to stay in a, in a relationship or with a mentee,
Right.
whether you're a mentee or a mentor, if you feel like
Right.
they don't need you anymore. And I think as a mentor also, it's okay to say, like, well, you've graduated, like, congratulations, like, let's, I'll be here for you, I'm whatever. But, like, everybody has seasons in their life, right? And if you can get that person along with whatever their goal is,
Yeah.
and see them succeed. But
Yeah.
uh
And that is so important. A couple of things you just said there. The tactics for a
mm,
mentor
mm,
to help transition a mentee on, right?
mm,
It,
mm,
it, it cannot go on forever.
yeah.
Now, sometimes you might become friends and that relationship continues. And I'll give you an example. Dee Control. A lot of people in our industry know her. She's the retired CIO of Emory. I did
Mm,
not even get to know her until she retired. I did, I
mm,
mean, she was my CIO at Emory, but I didn't have a
mm,
relationship with her.
mm,
She was many levels above me. So afterwards, through the Georgia Hymns, we did become friends, and I did ask her to become a mentor, help me out, give me advice. And it has turned, she's like one of my best friends now.
Mm-hmm.
It evolved.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes you're blessed and things like that do happen. But I think that tactic of sometimes helping a mentee graduate, as you well put it, and
Mm-hmm.
move on has to be also learned. It's so
Yes.
hard because you don't want to be like, I'm done with you, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's a skill to be able to transition that, which maybe is a good topic for the future too,
Yeah.
Tracy, because that,
Yeah.
it really is, it's hard sometimes.
I'll also say, because it's funny, because I was thinking about that situation. I was thinking about another situation. So I love to allow women seats at the table, because obviously, like, women don't typically get seats at the table. So anytime I can give them a seat at the table, I make the assumption in my head, okay, there's this like understanding that you know, you're not going to embarrass me, or you're not going to do something that is sort of like outside of what is socially expected. You know, if you're an intern and you're in a boardroom full of executives,
Mm-hmm.
like, you should not go to the boardroom of executives and be like, "Hi, by the way, can you be my mentor? Can you this, you that?" Right? The
Mm-hmm.
person who let you in that room as an intern with a bunch of C-suite executives,
Yeah.
like, did that, and you should observe and not, because then you'll never be invited back into that room.
Yeah.
And so, but it's interesting because, like, did I do my job? I wasn't even a mentor, right? But I was just trying to give somebody an opportunity. Like, did I do my job to say, like, look, but you can't do X, Y, and Z? Or should the mentee, or, again, it wasn't a formal relationship, right? But should they have known? So that's kind of another thing, like, maybe
Yeah.
having more open conversations as mentors and mentees around, like, hey, I'm going to introduce you to this person, but these are my expectations. Don't do X, do X, whatever. Especially if it's career stuff, right? Because,
Yeah.
for a mentor who, supposedly would have in this situation would have like more relationships or more, whatever it is, because they're further along in their careers, um, you should probably set expectations of how you want that mentee to behave, or the
Mm-hmm.
mentee should be okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise, like, that relationship is damaged, right? Like, I'm not inviting that person back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not going to tell her either.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm writing this down, because, the mentor mentee etiquette, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Expectations. I know, there isn't a way to be foolproof, right? And have everything if you were to document it, right? And some of
Mm-hmm,
it,
mm-hmm.
one might say, well, it's common sense.
Yeah,
But not everyone, we're not all wired the same way. So what might be common sense to me might not be to you, or vice versa.
exactly.
But I bet, we could come up with some of the most common,
Yeah,
that, again, we might also say it might be generational. It might be, I don't know. We all could come up
yeah.
with reasons why there's some disconnects, or different ways of thinking about it. But I'm writing this down because I think
Yeah.
that's, some great points you share.
But can you imagine that, right? Like, let's say I invite a woman into a boardroom full of executives, and I
Mm-hmm.
say, but you can't ask them to be your mentors, or like, you can't whatever, or you're just here to observe. It's like, well, gosh, is that like cutting them off at the knees too, But at the same time, right? It's like, well, then you're just like not going to be invited into those situations again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
So
know,
what's
and
better?
I
Seizing the moment, because, like, that's good that person did that, right? That's good that she took that opportunity to ask for more mentors, build her network. Like, that's good, that's a good behavior, but it wasn't
um,
appropriate in that moment.
and it's also, I hate to add this, complexity to it, but it's also
Mm-hmm.
how one does it.
That makes sense too.
Yeah. So if how she did it in the moment there, was it a conversation that allowed it to be slipped in? Was it a
Yeah.
conversation that the other person kind of invited that type of a point?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Maybe over lunch that came up, and she, if one can put it in. So I guess I'm saying is I've let many good opportunities pass me by because I was always too cautious. I was always
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't want to take advantage of someone's kindness.
Yeah.
I don't want to ask people for something.
That is
I
so true. It's all in, it depends.
Yeah,
Because I would say yes, you should, but it has to be appropriate.
I know. And
So
then it
what do
goes
you
back to,
do?
so when's appropriate? Would
Yeah.
Tracy and Seppi say the same thing is appropriate at the same time for at the same place? I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
It's
And
hard.
it is, and I think I hope one as an individual um, can figure out their own sweet spot, right?
Yeah.
Trying to
Yeah.
figure out with my personality, with me, right, and how one can create relationships or how I can maybe connect with people if it's the right time and
Yeah.
it's not and it feels right. I probably should try, go for it. But
Yeah.
you gotta have a way to also perceive and understand body language from the other person, right?
Yeah.
So if you
Yeah.
start seeing like, they're looking at you like,
Yeah.
what? Then you probably need to pull it back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I understand we probably don't learn all that or know all that. I'm still learning it. I don't
Yeah.
think you're ever like, it's 100% proof.
It's true.
But
It's
we do
true.
need to look at the body language of the other person, really, or at least even in the world of our virtual world, look at somebody's face, look at it, see,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm going down a path that person is not, they're not responding, right? They're not
Yeah.
responding positively. I probably need to.
It's so funny because it really, and sometimes it's not you, it's the other person. It's so
Sure,
funny because like we're just talking about human interaction here,
we
right?
are. We are.
It's just like, and I think the thing is that we're all people, and so whatever opportunities are presented to us, we will take it the way we would as
Yeah,
as a us as an individual, and for better for worse, right? Like that shapes who you are today.
yeah,
So I think any opportunity, any situation, but I think it's really important to again continue to exercise those sort of like muscles of finding mentors. And I should say this for myself too, right? Like, do I need mentors? I probably need some. Like, what do I want? What am
yeah.
I trying to solve for myself?
Right.
um but anyway, so what great second
I
topic.
know. I love it. Thank you. Thank you for
Yes,
being my partner in crime. I
of course.
appreciate it.
Yes, yes, yes. So you can find me again on LinkedIn at Tracy S. Lee. And Seppi, oh my gosh, whenever I type your name in, I'm like, okay, here's the like
Okay,
15
let
minutes.
me tell you,
But
I connected my LinkedIn profile to Clear, the Clear ID.
uh-huh.
So it
Yeah.
has my whole name on there. Now I can't, I get why there's pros and cons, but yes, my whole name is Sepide. So I
Uh-huh.
apologize, everyone, with a long name. But yeah, it's Sepide Browning on
Hmm.
LinkedIn. And yes, please connect with us. We would love to uh, meet more people, just
Yes. And we
create
both
those
do so much in
relationships.
the community. Like Seppi, you have hymns, of course. I'm on the TAG Digital Health Board. There's always events coming up. And if you're a woman in leadership, I host this thing called the Lays Leaders in Life Sciences. And so, and Seppi, you do 10 million things too. So definitely connect with us. We'd love to get you situated. And,
Yeah.
whether you're new to the Atlanta ecosystem or whether you're just putting your feelers out because, your career is changing, let us
Yeah.
know. And
Yeah.
we'll see you all next time.
Yeah. Well said. See you all soon. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.